Hey everyone, it's Angie, and today is February 11th, 2017. I don't know why I always have to think when I say the year. Maybe because it's still new in the year. So this video, as you can see, is a how I convinced my husband to pursue the homestead dream. And to be honest, maybe this was a little bit of clickbait. I didn't really have to convince him. And there's a reason why I am making this video is because if that wasn't my husband's dream, if that's not a vision he had, I would simply have to compromise. I wouldn't push my dream on him and force him to give up his dreams for my dream. And I would have willingly compromised with him, maybe to the point where maybe I just have one kind of animal as opposed to a farm, and maybe just pursued one aspect of homesteading really, and that kind of thing. Like some things he probably would have gone for if he wasn't into homesteading would have been birds, quail, chicken, ducks, something like that. So I think as we pursue this homestead dream, we're still going to have our own things that we're into. Um, like he's more of a gardener than an animal person. He likes domestic animals, don't get me wrong. Like he loves our dogs, probably more than I do. And he really does like animals, but he doesn't like to deal with animals. He doesn't want to get dirty with animals. He'd rather just come out and say, oh, how cute, give it a little pet, and be done with them. He's more into like, I don't know, other things, particularly gardening. He's been into gardening though for a really long time, so that's nothing new. But I wanted to make this video to say that if you're in a situation where you want to homestead and your spouse isn't convinced, I would just kind of compromise with them, and say, well, maybe we don't have to homestead, but maybe I can have an animal. Maybe I can have a goat, and I'll just be the only one that's responsible for it. You won't have to do anything, and then we can just stay in our house and live life normally. And in that way, you're kind of also slightly introducing them to the homesteading lifestyle, and then once they see how like good that goat's milk tastes, or how easy it is to care for them, a lot of people I think may think it's harder than they realize. Some people also don't realize how hard it is, but I think some people just think it's way too hard. They know nothing about nothing, and there's just no way they can do it. And so, if you kind of just take on the whole responsibility yourself of just like one little baby step, then, it might turn them onto it, or make them realize, I really don't want to homestead. But, you marry that person for better or for worse. And so I think that you should just be willing to compromise with that person. And maybe, you never know, one day down the line they might change their mind when life is just so busy. So I'll share a little bit about how the whole thing came up with me and my husband. It really wasn't hard convincing him at all. The thing I had to convince him of was the fact that I could handle homesteading because it's so much work. He kind of grew up with a more kind of a country life than I did. Now, he lives in a suburb, sort of, and so he grew up in a suburb, sort of, I mean, and, he wasn't really in the country, per se, but, he was always out camping, or fishing, or, just kind of like, his dad was very resourceful, and they used to build a lot of things together, and they would garden together and make a crop, and, so he had kind of a more hands-on upbringing, whereas me, it was the total opposite. Born and raised in the city, concrete jungle, like it's basically where I grew up. We were lucky if we had a little patch of grass out front to plant a few flowers. So that was kind of my upbringing, and I knew nothing about anything. But one thing I always had was this vision. I hated the city life. There was nothing about the city life that I enjoyed, really. I hated the hustle and bustle. I hated how detached people were and how many people there were in the city. Um, Nobody knew anyone. It's just a very kind of not a warm, welcoming place. And so I've always disliked that. And I always had this dream whenever I would see movies or something. I would always have this dream, even as a little kid, to just like get away from it all and go out to the country where everyone knows everyone, and, like, it's a more close knit society. And I always dreamed about that and said, wow, that would be so cool to do that. Have some chickens or something. I mean, my dreams were never as big as they are now, but they were pretty lofty type visions I had for myself that were the total opposite of what I thought. The way they were totally opposite from the way I grew up. Not the way I thought they would be, because that I never, I guess I just never thought or envisioned that I would be able to leave the city life and enter the country life. It was a dream, and it stopped at a dream, because then I would always say to myself, what do I know? How could I ever do that? Like, it was just this thing where I would kind of almost talk my dream down and just say, there's no way, and that's not even what, you know, people are gauged as successful by. People are gauged on success by the amount of money they make and how they spend that money, not just being self-sufficient. So, that was just a little background. I'll probably make a video sharing a lot more of my background and my upbringing in a future video, because it really did shape, I think, a lot of why I have the dreams and visions I do now. So one of the ways I pretty much convinced my husband that I was really ready for this and I could totally handle it, was I kind of dug in and got as much information as I could before I presented it to him. I didn't just see like 2 videos on homesteading and how like wonderful it seemed, and just started to talk about all these dreams I had with him without having information in my disposal beforehand. And so when I first brought it up to him, it was more of a, let's like go homescrid. Homescrid. What is homescrid? It was going to be a combination between homestead and off-grid. That was strange. I should coin that term. Homescrid. Oh, I cracked myself up. Anyway. So I kind of brought it up to him as saying, let's go homestead off-grid. And so obviously he had a few like major questions, like, how do you even go about doing that? What do we do about this? What do we do about that? What do we do about this? What do we do about that? And most of the questions he had, I had an answer for. See, that's one thing that's super important when you are bringing such a huge vision to your partner, is you have to like have your ducks lined up in a row. Because I knew at first he wasn't going to take me seriously. And I wanted him to know that I had done a lot of research, and I had read a lot, I had watched a lot, and I had virtually an answer for every objection he had. And once he started to feel more confident that I was serious and I was going to take this serious and I wasn't just going to jump in and quit, that's when he started to take me really seriously, and he started looking at what his life could be like homesteading. And he's like, man, if she's serious, then I think we should just go for it. So pretty much right away, after just a few weeks of me kind of like poking and prodding him to remind him that I was still serious, because he knows that I sometimes have off the wall fantasy ideas, and then like as the time goes by, vision drops away, and it's not even life altering. So I think he was just kind of waiting patiently to see like if I was just gonna stop talking about it or what. You know, like I said, it wasn't that he doesn't necessarily want a homestead. He didn't think I was serious about it and that I could handle it. And so after about a month of me like just like not nagging him, but just like seriously talking to him about ideas I was having and ways that we can make money off the homestead and ways that we could, you know, keep these animals together. All the animals I was interested in, all these different gardening techniques, you know, ideas on how to build our house on our homestead and all kinds of things like that. I was just always bringing up all these ideas. Oh, I just watched this video. Oh, I just read this article. Ooh, 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 ooh. And then I joined a Facebook group on Facebook and added him to that group. And then so before you knew it, he was kind of really seriously engaging the idea. And then he just kind of went all in with me with it. So I mean, my advice is, and I don't really want to make this channel all about advice, but there's just certain things that you kind of just know are the truth. And so I would just say, like, be gentle with your partner. Don't push and nag. You want to just kind of show your excitement for it. And if your partner really loves you, there will be compromise, I think, at the minimum. And if you're really lucky, they'll be on board with you 100%. And then you guys can just go and, you know, start your dream. You can even start it right where you are, right where you are. And that's like what we did. You know, we're not on our homestead. We're barely a homestead right now. I'm raising rabbits for sale and for fiber, because I have well, I'm starting an Angora herd. I did have other rabbits that I was just selling, but I kind of want, I'm more interested in dual purpose animals. So I'm getting into fiber rabbits. I have one fiber rabbit that I showcased in my first video. I'll link that down below so you can see George. And here's my little Arnie. Can you see Arnie? Say hi, Arnie. Ooh, you smell. Ew, you're stinky. What? Ew, what were you doing out there? Oh, he smells like he was eating dog crap. Literally. You stink. Go outside. Go. Go. Ew, you got mud all over me. Oh, he's such a nasty little boxer. You're gross. Stay down. No, down. Now this episode's going to turn into the Arnie show. He's so bad. Ew. He's like seriously the worst and best dog we've ever had. He's the sweetest, most lovable, most loyal, passionate dog I ever met, who has no personal boundary space whatsoever. But he's just a very bad dog, very misbehaves. He doesn't listen to commands. He kind of just does what he wants, and he's just like a big oaf. But anyways, you know, so I want more dual purpose animals, so that's why I got into fiber. And so I'm teaching myself now how to knit and utilize the wool from the rabbits, and then I can also sell that wool or trade that wool. And so there's a lot that you can do when you have a commodity. And then also we have quail. And we haven't hatched any yet. We want to hatch, but there's kind of a lot going on right now. I'm kind of hesitant to hatch because I don't really know if I want to take on another responsibility on top of kind of getting the house prepared to sell. So, because we have a lot to do here. We have a really, really big house. There's so much to clean and organize, and we have to minimize a lot of our things that we have, which has not been easy. So, you know, it's kind of, ew, it's kind of, it's kind of all of a process right now. And it's okay if you're right where you are and it's a process. That's one thing I learned, and that's why I started this channel. And it was kind of to show people that you can start right where you are. I started this YouTube channel. I was debating whether or not I was going to wait till we actually got our property, or if I wanted to document the process up until we got our property and started really homesteading the way we want. And I realized I definitely want to start documenting now. I want to document for myself. Arnie! Goodness. See, we're not in the country yet. He can't be barking nonstop like that. Because there's actually noise ordinance laws around here with dog barking. And they can't be barking like that nonstop, even if he's just playing and goofing off. Unfortunately, we have tons of restrictions where we are, which is literally a huge chunk of the reason why we want to get a property somewhere else in the country. Because we're on 1/4 of an acre, and we can actually do a lot with 1/4 of an acre. You don't think you can, but if you have animals like we have, you don't have like a dairy animal or grazing animals or anything like that, you could just set up a little chicken coop. You have a quail apiary. Have you some have you some rabbits, or, any other animal you can kind of stick in a cage. And you can have honeybees. There's really a ton. You can have a pretty decent sized garden. Nothing you could profit off of, but definitely something that you can put up. So, you can really do a lot on 1/4 of an acre. You could compost. There's so much to do. So it's not so much that we don't have enough property or land. It's just there's a lot of restrictions. Our taxes are ridiculous. We pay literally $8,000 a year in taxes here. So it's just insane. Like, we don't need all this house. We don't need all of this, to pay all these taxes. My son doesn't even go to the school district here, a homeschool. So, it's just kind of like a pointless place to be anymore. And then there's a lot of also personal things going on why we have to break free from this house. So, anyways, getting back to what I was talking about, it's okay to kind of just start where you are. Feel confident in that. And if your significant other doesn't seem convinced at first, it's okay. Give them time. It's a lot to ask of them, honestly. You're asking them to change their entire lifestyle, everything that they've probably ever known in their entire life. And if they do know, then they are more sturdy in what they want, whether or not they want to go back to that lifestyle. But if they're like, me and my husband just kind of grew up in the city area. My husband didn't really grow up concrete jungle like I did, but if they're used to one particular lifestyle their whole life, and you're just like throwing at them, hey, let's go live off grid and homestead, that's really a lot to ask that person, especially if they like love their career, because this could affect their career. Do you have to work on a homestead? Yeah, but it's harder to put in the hours at work if you want to put in the hours on your homestead, and then there's that conflict there. So, it's really just a whole lot to ask somebody who's not fully convinced or on board with it. So I personally would just compromise wherever you can. Well, okay, honey, can I maybe just get like 5 chickens then? I'll totally take care of everything. I'll collect the eggs, and then we'll have, fresh eggs. So that would be like a cool place to start, because, chickens are easy compared to most livestock from what I hear. I don't have chickens, never have. I have quail. But even quail's a good place to start. Get them cute little quail eggs. I'll just toss them to my dogs for treats. They love them, and they're so good for you. So yeah, just start where you are, compromise where you can, and just really hope that one day, with gentle persistence, they start to say to themselves, maybe we can, start to head that direction. You might start with chickens, and maybe they might just say okay to a goat. Maybe they'll say okay to, I don't know, rabbits. Maybe you're a knitter, and you can start, there with just like one Angora rabbit and harvest the wool, and then maybe get into breeding rabbits, and then you can pay for their feed by selling babies, and also keeping some of the kits for wool production, and then kind of going with the cycle of that. So anyhow, this video is long enough. I don't want to just talk in circles, but like I said, this is like my diary. It's like my living diary. And for me, this is a documentary of my humble, small beginnings and the process and the journey moving forward to becoming self-sufficient as we can, which is the end goal, the end dream and vision. That's how I can see myself spending the rest of my life, is living off my lands and bartering with others, and sharing and giving and caring about everything that's important, the land, the animals, people. It all goes together, it all flows together. And I feel like that was God's original plan for us. So anyways, I'm going to end this video here. My next video is going to be me writing out my vision in a notebook. All of the things I want to do on my homestead, all of the plans I have, the ways I plan to try to make an income off of the homestead. Since I'm a homeschool mom, it's really important for me personally to not have to go to a job. And, you know, it's okay if my husband has to still work and keep up the homes, and then I keep up the homestead. But if I'm going to be home and bound to my house because of my farm and because of my son, I want to be able to still contribute. I want to be like that Proverbs 31 woman, you know, who even from home can make an income to help the family. And so I'm going to write out my plan tonight and maybe hopefully upload a video tomorrow. So I hope you all check that out. I hope that you all like this video. I hope this gave some inspiration and some ideas to people who may be struggling to get their spouse on board. I would just take it easy. Take it easy. Start one place at a time. And I mean, there's really so many ideas to get started with that. You can even just start canning food. When you see a good sale at the market, just buy it up and learn how to can. And, I mean, there's so many things that you can do to kind of get started, to show your significant other that you're serious and it's beneficial to the family and all that good stuff. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking, because I could just talk and talk and talk, and this video is already like 20 minutes long. I hope people actually watch it, because that's a long video. But anyways, I will talk to you all tomorrow, hopefully. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.